Chapter 1, The Call. I'm Billy, 27, a little clumsy, and as of today a guy with a blank slate for a brain. I woke up in a hospital room an hour ago, head pounding like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. The smell of disinfectant stung my nose and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making my eyes ache. My left arm was in a sling and I had no clue why. Panic bubbled up as I fumbled through my pockets, finding a cracked phone. The screen flickered on and there it was, a contact labeled husband. My heart lurched. Okay, maybe this guy could tell me who I was, or at least why I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I hesitated, thumb shaky over the call button. What if he didn't answer? What if we were divorced or something awful? My head throbbed harder, but I hit it anyway, breath held tight as it rang. Once. Twice. Silence. My stomach sank. Oh God, had I just called an ex? Hey, hi. I blurted into the void, voice cracking. This is Billy. Are you my husband? I'm sorry if this is weird, I was in a car accident and I don't remember anything. If we're not together anymore, I'm really sorry for bothering you. The line stayed dead for a beat, then a low chuckle rolled through, a sound so warm it made my chest flutter despite the panic. Stay where you are, a deep voice said, smooth as whiskey. I'll be there soon. Click. He hung up before I could reply. I stared at the phone, pulse racing. Who was that? He didn't sound mad, but that laugh, it was teasing, almost intimate. I slumped back against the pillows, the starchy hospital gown crinkling, and tried to make sense of it. Husband. Accident. A voice that did weird things to my insides. Solid start, right? Earlier, the doctor had poked around, Dr. Harris, a guy with glasses and a clipboard who looked mildly annoyed by my existence. He'd shown a light in my eyes, muttering, mild concussion shouldn't cause amnesia. It's unusual. We'll keep you under observation. Any memories coming back? I'd shaken my head, feeling like a broken toy. Unusual. Perfect. So I was a medical oddity too. Now, waiting for this mystery man, I twisted the edge of the thin blanket over my legs. The room was frigid, the kind of cold that makes you shiver even under layers. A tray of neon green Jell-O wobbled on the bedside table untouched. I'd checked myself in the bathroom mirror earlier, green eyes staring back, wide and lost, freckles scattered across my cheeks, brown curls a total mess. Not exactly a heartthrob, but maybe I'd had charm before my brain decided to wipe itself clean. The door swung open and I nearly dropped my phone. A man stepped in, tall, broad-shouldered, with black hair swept back just enough to look effortless. His blue eyes hit me like a punch, sharp and unreadable, set in a face that belonged on a billboard. He wore a charcoal gray suit, tailored to perfection, and a faint whiff of cologne, woodsy, expensive, followed him as he crossed the room in 3 strides. My mouth went dry. This was my husband? I'd won the lottery without even buying a ticket. Billy, he said, voice like velvet, matching the one from the call. He stopped at the foot of my bed, hands in his pockets, head tilted slightly. You look rough. I laughed, a nervous, stuttering sound. Yeah, car accidents aren't exactly beauty treatments. Hi. Thanks for coming. I don't really know what's going on, but you're my husband, right? His lips twitched, a smirk tugging at one corner. He didn't answer right away, just studied me, those eyes raking over my face like he was cataloging every freckle. My cheeks burned under the scrutiny. Was I supposed to say more? Hug him? What if I'd forgotten some huge fight? I'm sorry, I stammered, fingers knotting in the blanket. I didn't mean to freak you out with the call. I just saw your name in my phone and I don't know anyone else right now. He stepped closer, the smirk softening into something gentler, harder to pin down. Don't apologize, he said, leaning down until his face was inches from mine. I caught the faint stubble on his jaw, the way his tie hung loose, hinting at a long day. You're hurt. I'm here. That's what matters. His breath brushed my cheek, warm and steady, and my brain stalled. Was he always this intense? My heart slammed against my ribs, loud enough I swore he'd hear it. Okay, I whispered, barely audible. Thanks, babe. I tested the word, and his eyebrow arched, amusement flashing in his gaze. Oh God, too much? But he didn't pull back, just straightened and nodded toward the door. Let's get you out of here, he said, snagging my chart from the bed with an ease that screamed confidence. Doctor cleared you, right? Yeah, I think so, I said, still dazed. He was taking charge and I didn't mind one bit. I swung my legs over the side, wincing as my head spun, and he was there instantly, hand steadying my elbow. His grip was firm, fingers warm through the gown, and I swallowed hard. Up close, his cologne was stronger, intoxicating, and I had to resist leaning into him. "Easy," he murmured, voice low, almost a purr. "You're not running anywhere today." Obviously, I shot back, aiming for normalcy despite the heat crawling up my neck. "So, what's your name? I should probably know that, right?" He paused, hand still on my arm, and that smirk returned, sharper now. "Connor," he said, like he was sharing a private joke. "Come on, let's get you home." Home. The word landed heavy, full of promise and questions. I nodded, letting him guide me out, his hand sliding to the small of my back. It felt possessive, electric, and I couldn't tell if I was scared or thrilled, maybe both. As we passed the nurse's station, she gave me a knowing smile, and I wondered what she saw, a couple reunited or a guy like me, totally lost with a man like him. In the hallway, Connor's stride was sure, his suit jacket brushing my arm. My mind churned. Why hadn't he corrected me? Was he just playing along? Or did he not mind? I glanced at him, perfect jaw tight, eyes ahead, and my stomach flipped. Whatever this was, I wasn't ready for it to stop. Not yet. Chapter 2, Living the Lie. Rain streaked down the windshield as Connor's sleek black car purred through the city streets, the leather seats cool against my aching back. My head still throbbed from the accident, but it was nothing compared to the chaos in my chest. I kept stealing glances at him, his strong hands on the wheel, the faint crease in his brow as he focused on the road. He'd said we were going home, and I'd nodded like I knew what that meant, even though my mind was a blank canvas splattered with question marks. The man next to me was my husband, apparently, and he hadn't corrected me when I called him that. Was he just humoring me, or was this real? Either way, I wasn't about to ruin it by asking too much. We pulled into an underground garage beneath a towering glass building, all sharp angles and modern gleam. My sneakers squeaked on the polished floor as I followed him to an elevator, the sling on my arm making me feel like a kid trailing after a grown-up. The doors slid shut, trapping us in a quiet hum, and I caught his reflection in the steel suit crisp, tie loosened just enough to show a peak of collarbone. My stomach did a flip. How was he this gorgeous? And how was he mine? "You're quiet," he said, breaking the silence, his voice low and smooth. He leaned against the wall, hands in his pockets, blue eyes pinning me in place. I shrugged, wincing as my shoulder twinged. "Just processing." "It's a lot." Understatement of the century. I wanted to ask a million things, how long we'd been together, what our life was like, but my tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. What if I didn't like the answers? The elevator dinged, and he led me down a hall to a door marked 1403. When he pushed it open, I stepped into a dream. The living room stretched out before me, all sleek lines and plush gray furniture, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city skyline fading into dusk. The air carried a hint of cedar and spice, his cologne, I realized, clinging to everything. My chest tightened. This was her home? It looked like a movie set, not a place I belonged. "Sit," Connor said, nodding at the sofa as he shrugged off his jacket. The way his shoulders moved under his shirt was distracting, broad, powerful, like he could lift me without breaking a sweat. I sank into the cushions, head spinning, and watched him roll up his sleeves, revealing forearms that made my mouth dry. He glanced over, catching me staring, and smirked. "You good?" "Yeah," I lied, clutching my phone like it could anchor me. "Thanks for this. I feel kinda useless right now." He crossed to the kitchen, filling a glass with water. "You're not useless, Billy. You're hurt. There's a difference." He walked back, handing it to me, his fingers brushing mine. The touch sparked up my arm, and I nearly fumbled the glass. That smirk deepened. "Careful." "Sorry," I muttered, sipping to hide the flush creeping up my neck. "So, how long have we been married?" He leaned against the armrest, close enough that I could feel his warmth. "A while," he said, voice vague, eyes glinting with something unreadable. "Long enough." I frowned, setting the glass on the coffee table. "That's not an answer." He chuckled, a low rumble that sent a shiver through me. "You always this pushy?" His hand reached out, tucking a curl behind my ear, fingers lingering there. My breath caught, and I froze, trapped in his gaze, intense, piercing, like he could see right through me. "Relax," he murmured, voice soft but commanding. "We've got time." "Time for what?" My brain screamed, but my body was too busy melting under his touch. I nodded, mute, and he pulled back, heading to the kitchen again. Hungry? He called, casual as if he hadn't just set my nerves on fire. Starving, I admitted, watching him move with an ease that made this place feel like his kingdom. He came back with a plate of shrimp pasta, fancy, delicious smelling, and set it down, then sat next to me, our knees inches apart. I dug in, hyper-aware of his thigh stretching his pants, the faint heat radiating from him. Halfway through, I caught him staring, chin propped on his hand, a small smile tugging at his lips. "What?" I asked, mouthful, mortified. "You're cute when you eat," he said, deadpan, but his eyes sparkled. I choked, coughing into my napkin, and he laughed, a rich, warm sound that made my chest ache. "Easy, don't choke on me." "You're the worst," I wheezed, but I was grinning too. It felt easy, natural, like we'd bantered like this forever. Maybe we had. The thought warmed me, but a flicker of doubt lingered. What if this wasn't my life at all? Later, he showed me to the bedroom, a massive space with a king-sized bed, dark sheets, and that same killer view. My heart thudded as reality sank in. We'd sleep here. Together. "I'll take the couch," he said, grabbing a pillow, but his eyes flicked to me, testing. "No." I blurted too loud. "I mean, it's your bed too. We're married, right? It's fine." My face burned, but I couldn't take it back. He raised an eyebrow, then tossed the pillow down. "All right," he said, voice dropping low, sending a thrill up my spine. "If you're sure." I wasn't, but I climbed in anyway, the mattress dipping as he joined me. He stayed on his side, but the space between us buzzed, alive with tension. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of his breathing, the rustle of sheets as he shifted. Did we always sleep like this? Did we touch? My fingers twitched, wanting to reach out, but I balled them up instead. "Night, Billy," he said, soft and close, his voice wrapping around me like a blanket. "Night, Connor," I whispered back, trembling with something I couldn't name. Want, fear, hope. As I drifted off, his scent filled my lungs, and I wondered how long I could keep pretending this was real. Or if I even wanted to stop. Chapter 3, Cracks in the Dream. Rain drummed against the massive windows, a steady patter that matched the unease curling in my gut. I lay in Connor's, our king-size bed, the dark sheets cool against my skin, his breathing a soft rhythm beside me. Last night had been a blur of warmth and teasing, his presence wrapping around me like a lifeline. I'd fallen asleep to the fantasy of us, his scent and that low "night, Billy" lulling me into peace. But now in the gray pre-dawn light, something felt wrong. My head ached, sure, but it wasn't just the concussion. Flashes, sharp, disjointed, kept slicing through the haze, and they didn't fit this perfect penthouse life. I rolled onto my side, propping myself up on my good arm to watch him. Connor slept with one arm flung over his head, black hair mussed against the pillow, sheets tangled low around his hips. His chest rose and fell, muscles shifting under smooth skin, and I couldn't look away. He was gorgeous, almost unreal, and it hit me hard. How did I deserve this? My fingers twitched, aching to brush the stubble on his jaw, to see if he'd wake with that smirk I was starting to crave. But I didn't move. What if I wasn't supposed to? What if this closeness was just a lie my broken brain had spun? The first crack had crept in yesterday. I'd stumbled into the kitchen, still groggy, and found him brewing coffee. The machine hissed, steam curling up, and he'd handed me a mug, black, no sugar, exactly right. "Morning," he'd said, voice rough and sexy from sleep, and I'd grinned like a fool, clutching the warmth. Then I'd seen it, a stack of mail on the counter, all addressed to Connor Grayson. No Billy anywhere. No hint of me. My stomach had twisted, but I'd shoved it down, burned my tongue on the coffee, and pretended it didn't matter. Now those cracks were widening. Images flickered, a cluttered desk, a woman's voice calling Billy, in a sharp, playful tone, the hum of an office printer. None of it matched the sleek apartment or the man beside me. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block them out, but they pressed harder. A fluorescent-lit room. A tie I didn't recognize. My breathing hitched, too loud in the quiet, and Connor stirred. "Billy?" His voice was thick with sleep, and I froze as he turned toward me, blue eyes blinking open. They locked onto mine, bleary but piercing, and my heart stumbled. "Sorry," I whispered, forcing a smile. "Didn't mean to wake you." He propped himself up on an elbow, sheets slipping lower, and I had to fight to keep my eyes on his face. "You okay?" he asked, voice softening, concern flickering in his gaze. Yeah, just head's a mess, I said, half-drew. I rubbed my temple, avoiding those eyes that saw too much. Bad dreams, I guess. He sat up fully, the mattress shifting under his weight, and reached for me. His hand cupped my cheek, warm and steady, thumb brushing my skin. You're safe here, he said, low and firm, like a promise. My breath caught, and I leaned into his touch despite myself, the heat of it chasing away the cold doubt. Want to talk about it? I shook my head, words tangling in my throat. How could I tell him I was dreaming of a life that didn't include him? That I was terrified us wasn't real? It's nothing, I lied, forcing a laugh. Probably just the concussion talking. He didn't buy it, I could see it in the way his brow furrowed, but he didn't push. Instead, he slid closer, the space between us shrinking until his knee brushed mine under the sheets. All right, he murmured, hands sliding to the back of my neck, fingers threading through my curls. But you tell me if it gets worse, yeah? Yeah, I managed, voice shaky. His touch was electric, grounding me and unraveling me all at once. I wanted to crawl into his lap, bury my face in his chest, and forget the flashes. But they lingered, sharp edges cutting through the warmth. He pulled back, swinging his legs over the side of the bed, and I felt the loss of him instantly. Coffee? He asked, standing, stretching in a way that made his shirt ride up, exposing a strip of toned stomach. My mouth went dry, and I nodded mutely, watching him pad to the kitchen in bare feet, all casual grace. I stayed in bed a moment longer, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece myself together. The flashes didn't stop, a nameplate on a desk, Billy Carter, a laugh that wasn't Connor's. My chest tightened. Who was I outside this apartment? Did I want to know? The smell of coffee drifted in, pulling me out of the spiral, and I forced myself up, wincing as my head protested. In the kitchen, Connor handed me a mug, his fingers brushing mine again, deliberate, I was sure now. You look like you're thinking too hard, he said, leaning against the counter, watching me over the rim of his own cup. Maybe, I admitted, sipping the scalding liquid. It burned, but I welcomed the distraction. Just trying to figure out what's missing. His eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of something worry? Guilt, crossing his face before it smoothed out. You'll get it back, he said, voice steady. No rush. I wanted to believe him, but the doubt gnawed louder. What if I don't? I asked, quieter, staring into the mug. What if I never remember us? He set his coffee down, stepping closer until he was right in front of me, towering but not intimidating. Then we make new memories, he said, tilting my chin up with a finger. His touch was gentle, but his gaze burned, intense and unyielding. I'm not going anywhere, Billy. My heart stuttered, caught between relief and fear. He was so sure, so solid, and I wanted to cling to that. But the flashes, those damn flashes, whispered otherwise. I forced a smile, nodding, and he dropped his hand, stepping back to grab his coffee again. We drank in silence, the rain outside a soft underscore to the tension coiling inside me. He didn't push, didn't ask, but I felt his eyes on me, steady and searching. I wanted to ask about the mail, about the life I couldn't see, but the words stuck. What if the truth shattered this? What if I lost him? As he rinsed his mug, I gripped mine tighter, the heat seeping into my palms. The cracks were there, small but growing, and I didn't know how long I could ignore them, or how long I could keep pretending this dream was mine to keep. Chapter 4, The Wake-Up Call. Sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows, glinting off the glass coffee table as I sat on the sofa, a half-finished cup of coffee cooling in my hands. Connor had left an hour ago, muttering something about a meeting, his suit pristine again, tie knotted tight. He'd kissed my forehead before he went, a quick, casual brush of lips that left me dazed and tingling, and promised to check in later. I'd nodded, smiling like everything was fine, but the second the door clicked shut, the cracks I'd been ignoring split wide open. My head buzzed, not with pain this time, but with clarity, and it hit me like a freight train. I remembered. I wasn't married to Connor. He wasn't my husband. He was my boss. Connor Grayson, CEO of Grayson Enterprises, the guy who signed my paychecks and occasionally terrified me in boardroom meetings. The phone contact, husband, was a stupid joke I'd typed in months ago after a late-night work session where he teased me about being married to the job. Oh God. I'd called my boss, babe, slept in his bed, let him cook for me. My mug slipped, coffee sloshing onto my jeans, and I didn't even flinch. I wanted to die. Right there. Just sink through the floor and vanish. The apartment felt suffocating now, its sleek perfection mocking me. The gray sofa where we'd sat, knees brushing. The kitchen counter where he'd handed me coffee, smirking like he owned me. Every inch of this place screamed my delusion, and shame burned hot in my chest. I stumbled to my feet, pacing, my sling swinging awkwardly. How had I let this happen? Worse, how had he let it happen? He'd known. He had to have known. That smirk, those vague answers he'd played along, and I'd been too dumb, too lost, to see it. My phone buzzed on the table, Connor texting, probably, but I couldn't look. Not yet. I needed air, needed out. I grabbed my jacket, one sleeve dangling uselessly over the sling, and bolted for the door. The elevator ride down was a blur, my reflection in the steel a mess of wild curls and flushed cheeks. I burst into the lobby, the doorman tipping his hat like I belonged here, and staggered onto the street. The city roared around me, horns blaring, people rushing, and I sucked in a shaky breath, trying to piece myself back together. Work. I remembered work. Grayson Enterprises, a gleaming tower downtown where I shuffled papers in the marketing department, always half terrified of screwing up in front of Connor. Not my Connor, the soft-spoken guy who'd tucked my hair behind my ear, but Mr. Grayson, the sharp-edged boss who could silence a room with a look. The memories flooded back, meetings, deadlines, Emma from HR laughing at my dumb jokes. No penthouse. No shrimp pasta. Just me, Billy Carter, a nobody who'd somehow conned himself into a fairy tale. I wandered aimless until my legs gave out on a park bench. Pigeons strutted nearby, pecking at crumbs, and I buried my face in my good hand, groaning. Stupid, 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 I muttered. How was I supposed to face him? I'd have to quit. Move to Canada. Dye my hair and start over as a lumberjack. Anything but go back to that office and see him leaning against his desk, all smug and perfect, knowing I'd made a fool of myself. My phone buzzed again, insistent, and I finally looked. 2 texts from Connor, how you holding up, and call me if you need anything. I stared at the screen, stomach twisting. He sounded normal, caring even, but it didn't erase the truth. He'd let me believe it, fed me, touched me, slept next to me without a word. Was he laughing at me? Pitying me? Or something else? My thumb hovered over the reply button, but I shoved the phone in my pocket instead. I couldn't deal with him yet. The walk back to my real life, my cramped studio apartment across town, took forever, every step heavy with dread. When I got there, the sight of it hit me like a slap, peeling paint, a futon doubling as my bed, a sink full of dishes I'd ignored pre-accident. No city skyline, just a view of a brick wall. I collapsed onto the futon, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Connor. His hand on my back. That low relax. The way he looked at me like I mattered. Had it all been a game? A knock jolted me upright. I froze, heart pounding, then crept to the door, peering through the peephole. Connor stood there, still in his suit, tie gone now, top button undone. My stomach dropped. How did he know where I lived? Oh, right, HR files. He knocked again, sharper, and I panicked, flattening myself against the wall like that'd make him disappear. Billy, I know you're in there, he called, voice muffled but firm. Open the door. I cursed under my breath, fumbling with the lock, and yanked it open. He filled the doorway, taller than I remembered, blue eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. Hey, he said, casual, like he hadn't just tracked me down. Hey. I echoed, voice shrill. What are you doing here? How why? I stopped, hands flailing, sling flapping uselessly. I remembered, okay? You're not my husband. You're my boss. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, I'll resign tomorrow. Stop, he cut in, stepping inside uninvited, shutting the door behind him. The tiny room shrank with him in it, his cologne overwhelming the stale air. You're not resigning. And you're not an idiot. I gaped, backing up until my legs hit the futon. You knew. The whole time you knew I was wrong, and you just let me think. My voice cracked, shame and anger tangling. Why didn't you tell me? He sighed, running a hand through his hair, musing it further. At first, I thought you were joking. Then I saw you scared, lost, and I didn't want to make it worse. He stepped closer, voice dropping. You needed someone. I was there. That's not an excuse. I snapped, heat rising. You let me call you babe, sleep in your bed, and you liked it, he said, cutting me off, eyes flashing. I froze, mouth open, and he closed the gap, looming over me. Don't pretend you didn't, Billy. I saw it, every blush, every time you leaned into me. My face burned, words dying in my throat. He was right, and I hated it. I'd loved every second, even now, with him staring me down like he could unravel me with a look. That's not the point, I mumbled, weak, dropping my gaze to his chest. Then what is? He asked, softer, tilting my chin up. His thumb brushed my jaw, and my breath hitched, traitorous body responding despite everything. You ran. Why? Because I'm mortified. I burst out, pulling away. I threw myself at my boss like some lovesick puppy, and you let me. He didn't flinch, just watched me, steady and unreadable. Maybe I wanted you to, he said quietly, and the air sucked out of the room. My heart stopped, then slammed back to life, and I stared at him, caught between disbelief and something dangerously close to hope. Chapter 5: The Pursuit. The air in my cramped studio apartment felt thick, charged, as Connor's words hung between us. Maybe I wanted you to. My heart thudded so loud I was sure he could hear it, ricocheting off the peeling walls. He stood there, inches away, blue eyes boring into mine, his shirt unbuttoned just enough to show a glimpse of collarbone that made my mouth dry. I wanted to scream, to shove him out, to demand what the hell he meant, but my body wouldn't move, pinned by that gaze, by the heat rolling off him. Shame still burned in my gut, but something else flickered too, something reckless and warm, and I hated how much I liked it. What? I finally croaked, voice barely audible, stepping back until my calves hit the futon again. What does that even mean? Connor didn't budge, just tilted his head, that damn smirk creeping back. It means exactly what you think, Billy. He took a step forward, closing the gap I tried to make, and the room shrank further, his cologne wrapping around me like a trap. You called me your husband. I didn't hate it. I blinked, brain scrambling. You're insane, I said, half laughing, half panicked. I was delusional. You're my boss, and I gestured wildly, sling flapping. I made a fool of myself, and you're standing here acting like it's, what? Flattering? He shrugged, casual, but his eyes darkened, intent. Maybe it was. Maybe I liked seeing you look at me like that, like I was more than the guy who signs your checks. His voice dropped, low and rough, and he stepped closer still, until his shoes brushed mine. You weren't the only one caught up in it. My breath hitched, and I gripped the futon's edge to steady myself. Caught up in it? I echoed, incredulous. You let me sleep in your bed, cooked me dinner? Were you just playing house with me? No, he said sharply, and for the first time I saw a crack in his calm, his jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration crossing his face. I didn't plan this, Billy. You called me, sounding scared out of your mind, and I couldn't just. He stopped, exhaling hard, raking a hand through his hair. I couldn't leave you like that. Then you kept going, and I didn't stop you. Why not? I pressed, voice rising. You could have said, hey, idiot, I'm your boss, not your husband, and saved us both the embarrassment. He laughed, a short, dry sound, and leaned in, hands bracing on either side of me against the futon, caging me in. Because I didn't want to, he said, so close I could feel his breath on my lips. Because every time you blushed, every time you leaned into me, I wanted more of it. And I still do. My heart stopped, then kicked into overdrive. His face was inches from mine, stubble rough along his jaw, eyes burning with something that wasn't pity or amusement, it was hunger. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms, fighting the urge to grab his shirt and pull him closer. You're crazy, I whispered, but it sounded weak, shaky, like I didn't believe it. Maybe, he murmured, one hand sliding up to cup my cheek, thumb tracing my lower lip. But you're not running now, are you? His touch was electric, sending a jolt straight through me, and I shivered, caught between wanting to bolt and wanting to melt. I should, I said, but I didn't move. Couldn't. His thumb pressed harder, parting my lips slightly, and my breath stuttered. This is a bad idea. You're my boss, fuck that, he cut in, voice rough, leaning closer until his forehead brushed mine. I'm not here as your boss, Billy. I'm here because I can't stop thinking about you, lost or not. I froze, every nerve alight, his words sinking in slow and heavy. He wasn't joking. This wasn't some power trip. The way he looked at me raw, unguarded, made my chest ache, made me want things I shouldn't. Connor, I started, but his name came out like a plea, and his eyes flared. Say it again, he said, voice a growl, hand tightening on my cheek. Say my name. Connor, I breathed, and that was it. He closed the gap, lips crashing into mine, hard and desperate. My good hand shot up, grabbing his shirt, pulling him closer even as my mind screamed to stop. He tasted like coffee and heat, his stubble scraping my skin, and I kissed him back, all the shame and fear drowned out by the fire he lit in me. He pulled back too soon, breathing ragged, forehead pressed to mine. "Tell me to leave," he said, voice strained like it cost him to say it. "Tell me and I'll go." I should've. I knew I should've. But my hand stayed fisted in his shirt, my lips tingling, and I shook my head. "Don't," I whispered, and his mouth curved into a grin, sharp, triumphant, before he kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, his hands sliding to my neck, fingers threading through my curls. The futon creaked as he pushed me back, his weight pinning me down, and I didn't fight it. His knee nudged between mine, sending a shock of heat up my spine, and I gasped into his mouth. He pulled back just enough to look at me, eyes dark and searching. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low, thumb brushing my jaw. "No," I admitted, breathless, "but I don't care." It was true, I didn't. Not about the job, the power difference, the mess I'd made. All I cared about was him here, now, the way he made me feel like I was burning alive. "Good enough," he murmured, and he kissed me again, hands sliding under my shirt, warm against my skin. My sling got in the way, and he laughed softly, tugging it off with a gentleness that clashed with the urgency in his grip. Clothes hit the floor, his shirt, my jacket, and the tiny room filled with the sound of our breathing, the rustle of fabric, the rain tapping outside like a distant drum. Later, tangled in the futon's thin sheets, his arm heavy across my chest, I stared at the ceiling, heart still racing. He chased me down, claimed me, and I'd let him, wanted him to. But the doubt crept back, cold and sharp. What now? He was still my boss. This wasn't a fairy tale anymore, it was real, messy, and terrifying. "Stop thinking," he mumbled, voice sleepy, pulling me closer. His lips brushed my shoulder, and I shivered, caught between the warmth of him and the storm in my head. "Easier said than done," I muttered, and he chuckled, low and lazy, his hand tightening on my hip. I wanted to stay here, in this bubble, but reality loomed, and I didn't know how we'd face it, or if I could. Chapter 6. Closer than ever. The morning light crept through the chipped blinds of my studio, painting stripes across the futon where Connor and I lay tangled in the sheets. His arm was slung over my waist, heavy and warm, his breath steady against my neck. Last night had been a whirlwind. His lips on mine, his hands everywhere, the futon creaking under us as the rain outside faded to a whisper. I'd fallen asleep in his grip, heart pounding, mind a mess of want and worry. Now awake, the reality of him, shirtless, stubble rough against my shoulder, felt too big, too real, and my chest tightened with a mix of thrill and dread. I shifted, trying to ease out from under him without waking him, but his arm tightened, pulling me back. "Going somewhere?" he mumbled, voice thick with sleep, lips brushing my skin as he spoke. A shiver shot down my spine, and I froze, caught between wanting to bolt and wanting to stay exactly where I was. "Just thinking," I said, quieter than I meant, staring at the ceiling. The paint was peeling in one corner, a stark reminder of how far this place was from his penthouse. About everything. He propped himself up on an elbow, blue eyes blinking open, sharp, even half asleep. "Everything, huh?" His hand slid up my side, fingers tracing lazy circles, and I sucked in a breath, hyper-aware of every inch of him pressed against me. "Care to narrow it down?" I laughed, a nervous huff, and turned my head to meet his gaze. Mistake. He looked too good, hair mussed, jaw shadowed with stubble, that smirk tugging at his lips. "You," I said, honest despite myself. "Us, this, it's a lot." His smirk softened, and he leaned closer, nose brushing mine. "Good a lot or bad a lot?" His voice was low, teasing, but there was something else there, vulnerability, maybe, buried deep. "Both," I admitted, my good hand fidgeting with the sheet. "Last night was—" I flushed, memories flashing. His weight pinning me, the heat of his mouth. "Amazing. But you're still my boss, Connor. What happens now?" He didn't answer right away, just watched me, hands stilling on my hip. Then he rolled onto his back, pulling me with him, so I ended up half draped across his chest. "What happens," he said, voice steady, "is we figure it out. Together." His fingers threaded through my curls, tugging lightly, and I melted a little, despite the knot in my stomach. "Together," I echoed, skeptical. "You make it sound easy. What about work? People will talk. I'll be the guy who slept with the CEO. Let them talk." He cut in, sharp, eyes flashing. "I don't care what they think. I care about you." He tilted my chin up, forcing me to look at him. "Unless you're saying you regret it." "No," I said too fast, and his smirk returned, smug now. I shoved at his chest, weak with the sling still dangling off my other arm. "Don't get cocky. I don't know how to do this. You're you and I gestured at the room, the mess of it. "Me. You're enough," he said, simple, like it was fact, and my throat tightened. He pulled me down, kissing me slow and deep, lips firm against mine. I kissed back, helpless, hands clutching his shoulders as the doubt ebbed, drowned out by the heat of him. We stayed like that a while, trading lazy kisses, the world shrinking to the futon and us. Eventually, hunger drove us up, me in yesterday's jeans, him in his wrinkled dress pants, shirt still MIA. The tiny kitchen barely fit us both, but he insisted on helping, crowding me against the counter as I tried to scramble eggs. "You're terrible at this," he teased, snagging the spatula, his chest brushing my back. "Shut up." I shot back, elbowing him lightly. "Not all of us have fancy chef skills." He laughed, low and warm, and kissed my neck, making me fumble the salt shaker. "You're distracting," I grumbled, but I leaned into him anyway, savoring the way his arms fit around me. We ate standing up, hip to hip, the eggs slightly burnt but good enough. He kept stealing bites from my plate, grinning when I swatted him, and it felt normal, domestic, like we could be this messy, real together. But the clock on the wall ticked louder, reminding me of the world outside. Grayson Enterprises, my desk, the inevitable whispers. "I should go to work," I said finally, setting my plate in the sink. "I've been out since the accident. People will wonder." Connor's jaw tightened, just a flicker, but he nodded. "I'll drive you." He grabbed his shirt from the floor, buttoning it with a casual grace that made my pulse jump. "But we're not hiding this, Billy. I'm done pretending." My stomach flipped. "You mean, tell people?" "No," he said, stepping close, hands on my hips. "I mean, I'm not sneaking around. If they figure it out, they figure it out. I want you out in the open." His thumbs pressed into my skin, firm, possessive, and I swallowed hard, caught between fear and a thrill I couldn't name. "Okay," I whispered, shaky but sure. He kissed me again, quick and fierce, then grabbed his keys, ushering me out the door. The drive to the office was quiet, his hand resting on my thigh, a silent claim. When we pulled into the parking garage, I hesitated, staring at the towering building. "You sure about this?" I asked, voice small. He turned off the engine, leaning over to cup my face. "Never been surer," he said, and kissed me. Right there where anyone could see. My heart raced, but I kissed back, clinging to him like he was my anchor. Inside, the lobby buzzed with Monday morning chaos. Suits, briefcases, the clack of heels. Connor walked beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed. His presence a shield and a spotlight all at once. Heads turned, whispers starting, and I felt them like pinpricks. Emma from HR spotted me first, her gold hair bouncing as she rushed over, eyes wide. "Billy, you're alive!" she exclaimed, then froze, glancing between me and Connor. "Wait, why are you with Mr. Grayson?" I opened my mouth, but Connor beat me to it, voice smooth. He's with me, Emma. Any questions? His hand brushed my back, casual but deliberate, and her jaw dropped, a grin spreading. Oh my God, she said, clapping a hand over her mouth. This is huge. She darted off, already texting, and I groaned, burying my face in my hands. See, I muttered to Connor. Told you. He chuckled, steering me toward the elevator. Let them talk, he said again, and as the doors closed, he pulled me close, lips grazing my ear. You're mine now, Billy. They'll get used to it. I shivered, half terrified, half elated, and leaned into him, wondering how long this high would last before the fall. Chapter 7, Blur of Us. Sunlight spilled across the hardwood floor of my studio, catching the dust motes floating lazily in the air. I sat cross-legged on the futon, a mug of coffee balanced on my knee, watching Connor rummage through my tiny kitchen. He was shirtless again, dress pants slung low on his hips, hair still damp from the shower we'd shared an hour ago. The memory of it, hot water, his hands slick against my skin, the steam fogging up the cracked mirror, made my face heat, and I took a quick sip to hide it. Last night had been reckless, real, and this morning felt like a fragile extension of it, a bubble I wasn't ready to pop. Eggs again? He called, holding up the carton with a grin, his voice pulling me back. You're predictable, Billy. Shut up. I shot back, smirking. It's not like I've got a gourmet stash here. He laughed, that low rumble that still sent a shiver through me, and started cracking eggs into a pan, the sizzle filling the quiet. I watched him move, confident, at ease, like he belonged in this dumpy space, and my chest ached with something I couldn't name. Love? Lust? Fear? Maybe all of it tangled up and messy. Yesterday at the office had been a whirlwind. Walking in with him, his hand on my back, Emma's gleeful gossip spreading like wildfire. It had been terrifying and exhilarating, like stepping off a cliff and finding you could fly. No one had said much to my face, but the looks, the whispers, followed me all day. Connor didn't flinch, just kept me close, his presence a shield I clung to. Now, though, in the stillness of my apartment, doubt crept in cold and sharp. What were we doing? Where was this going? He slid a plate of scrambled eggs in front of me, nudging my knee with his. You're thinking too hard again, he said, sitting beside me, close enough that our thighs pressed together. His warmth seeped into me, and I leaned into it, despite the storm in my head. Maybe, I mumbled, poking at the eggs, just wondering what happens next, with us. He set his own plate down, turning to face me fully, blue eyes steady. What do you want to happen? His hand found mine, fingers lacing through, and the simple touch made my pulse jump. I told you, Billy. I'm in this, all the way. I swallowed, throat tight. Yeah, but work. Your life, my life, they don't exactly match. I gestured around the room, the futon, the chipped mugs, the brick wall outside the window. You're Connor Grayson, CEO. I'm just me. He frowned, tugging my hand until I met his gaze. Stop that, he said, voice firm. You're not just anything. You're the guy who's got me waking up in a shitty apartment, cooking eggs, and liking it. He smirked, softening the edge, and I couldn't help a small laugh. We'll figure it out. Together. Together? I echoed, quieter, testing the word. Sounded good, too good, and that scared me. What if it crashes? What if people don't just get used to it like you think? Then we deal with it, he said, shrugging like it was simple. His thumb brushed my knuckles, a steady rhythm that calmed the panic bubbling up. I'm not walking away, Billy. Not unless you tell me to. I didn't want him to. God, I didn't. but the weight of reality, his world, my job, the gap between us, pressed down and I couldn't shake it. Okay, I said finally, voice small, and he leaned in, kissing me soft and slow, tasting like coffee and promises. The day stretched out lazy and warm. We stayed in, avoiding the outside world, trading kisses and dumb jokes over a deck of cards I'd found under the futon. He cheated at poker, grinning when I called him out, and I tackled him onto the mattress, laughing until he pinned me down, kissing me breathless. It was easy, perfect, a snapshot of something I wanted to keep forever. But as evening crept in, shadows lengthening across the floor, the bubble started to thin. I should head back, he said eventually, pulling his shirt on, buttons glinting in the dim light. Early meeting tomorrow. He paused, watching me. Come with me. I blinked, caught off guard. To your place. Yeah, he said, stepping close, hands on my hips. Stay with me. Not just tonight, move in. His voice was steady, but his eyes searched mine, waiting. My heart stuttered. Move in, I repeated, half laughing, half panicked. Connor, that's fast. So, he tilted my chin up, thumb brushing my jaw. I want you there, with me, every morning, every night. His lips grazed mine, a tease, and I shivered, caught in the pull of him. I faltered, mind racing. His penthouse, his life. It was a leap, a plunge into something I wasn't sure I could handle. Can I think about it? He nodded, but I saw the flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Take your time, he said, kissing me again, deeper, like he was staking a claim anyway. I'll wait. He left soon after, the door clicking shut behind him, and the apartment felt empty, too quiet without his laugh, his warmth. I sank onto the futon, staring at the coffee cups still on the table, their rims touching where we'd left them. Move in. Be with him. It was everything I wanted, wrapped in everything I feared. His world swallowing mine, the whispers turning to shouts, the chance of losing myself in him. Later, my phone buzzed. Connor texting, "Miss you already." I smiled, thumbs hovering over the keys, but didn't reply. Not yet. I curled up under the thin blanket, his scent lingering on the sheets, and closed my eyes. The future stretched out, blurry and undefined, a mix of sweet possibility and sharp edges. Him and me, together, somewhere between his penthouse and my studio, between fantasy and reality. I didn't know where we'd land. Back at the office, dodging stares, or tangled up in his bed, building something new. Maybe it'd crash, maybe it'd soar. All I knew was his voice in my head, steady and sure. I'm not walking away. And the way it made me hope, just a little, that we'd find a way to blur the lines and make it work.